The deafening silence of deep space was violently interrupted by the ship's shrill alarm. My eyes opened suddenly, still blurred by the artificial sleep of cryogenics. Through the hatch, the gray, desolate surface of the moon filled my field of vision. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I am, or rather was, commander of the Artemis 18th mission. Our official task, to lay the foundations for the first permanent lunar colony on the hidden side of the satellite. At least that's what we were told. What we discovered there changed my understanding of our place in the universe forever. As I untangled myself from the tubes and sensors in the cryogenic chamber, memories of the last moments before the launch flooded my mind. Director Holloway's serious face, his cold eyes fixed on me as he handed me a sealed envelope. "Commander, this contains vital mission instructions. It must not be opened until you are in lunar orbit." His voice betrayed an urgency I had never witnessed in all my years at the space agency. The envelope, where was it? My trembling fingers searched the compartment next to my camera until I felt the rough paper under the edges. My heart racing, I tore the seal. The words danced before my still blurry eyes. Omega-7 protocol activated. Anomaly detected on lunar surface. I investigate and contain at all costs. My blood ran cold. Protocol Omega-7 was a code I had hoped never to hear. It meant hostile alien contact. The alarm continued to sound, reminding me of the urgency of the situation. I forced myself to act, rousing the rest of the crew. Peterson, our lunar geology expert, was the first to regain consciousness. "Commander, what's happening?" Her voice was hoarse, her eyes wide with fear. "Prepare for emergency landing," I replied, trying to remain calm. "We have an Omega-7 situation." The shock on his face was palpable. We all knew what that meant. While the rest of the team woke up, I took over the controls of the spacecraft. The lunar surface was fast approaching, a vast desert of craters and elongated shadows. It was then that I saw it. In the center of a particularly large crater, something was glowing. It wasn't the natural reflection of the lunar rocks. It was a pulsating, rhythmic, almost artificial light. "My God," murmured Chen, our astrophysicist, looking over my shoulder. "That shouldn't be there." The spacecraft shook violently as we entered the thin lunar atmosphere. I struggled to maintain control as we approached the designated landing site, a few kilometers from the bright anomaly. The impact was brutal. We were thrown against our seats, the seat belts cutting into our skin even through the spacesuits. When we finally stopped, a sepulchral silence gripped the cabin. "Everyone okay?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Silent nods and muffled groans were the answer. We were alive, at least for the moment. With careful movements, we prepared to leave. Helmets were checked, oxygen tanks tested, communicators adjusted. The hatch opened with a hiss, and for the first time in decades, human boots touched the surface of the hidden side of the moon. The landscape was breathtaking, alien and desolate. The moon's curved horizon stretched out before us, punctuated by deep craters and sharp mountains. And there, a few kilometers away, the mysterious light pulsed, as if calling us. "Team," I said, my voice echoing through the comms, "our mission has changed. We have to investigate that anomaly. Stay alert and in close formation. We don't know what we're going to find." We began our journey across the lunar surface, each step raising a small cloud of silver dust. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of our breathing and the occasional crackle of the radio. As we got closer to the source of the light, details began to reveal themselves. It wasn't just a bright spot, but a series of geometric structures, perfectly aligned. It was definitely not natural. "That's impossible," whispered Peterson, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Those formations, they couldn't have formed naturally. We were less than a kilometer away now, and the sight before us defied all logic. Rising from the lunar surface, a city of colossal proportions revealed itself. Crystal and metal towers stretched towards the stars, their surfaces reflecting the light hypnotically. "How did this stay hidden for so long?" Chen asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The answer came not from one of us, but from a sudden tremor beneath our feet. The lunar surface began to move, giant slabs of rock sliding away to reveal something else. An abyss opened up before us, black as night itself, and from it something began to emerge. Something vast, ancient, and definitely not human. Panic seized me. "Team, fall back, now!" But it was too late. An invisible force was pulling us towards the darkness. My feet lost contact with the ground, and I felt my body being dragged into the void. The last thing I saw before being swallowed up by the darkness was Peterson's terrified face, his eyes wide with horror behind the visor of his helmet. Then everything went black. When I regained consciousness, I realized that I was in a completely alien environment. The walls pulsed with a light of their own, and the air... air. How could I breathe? Slowly, I realized that my costume had been removed. I was naked, lying on a cold, smooth surface that seemed to respond to my touch. It was then that I heard the voice, not with my ears, but directly in my mind. An ancient, powerful, and definitely not human voice. "Welcome, explorer. We've been waiting for you for a long time." Terror and fascination fought inside me. What were these creatures? What did they want with us? And most importantly, did NASA know about this all along? As these questions swirled around in my mind, one thing became clear. Our mission had only just begun, and the secrets we were about to uncover would change the course of human history forever. The alien voice reverberated in my mind, each word charged with an ancient and incomprehensible power. I struggled to keep my composure, my years of training fading in the face of this impossible reality. "Who? What are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice shaking more than I'd like to admit. The answer came not in words, but in images that flooded my consciousness. I saw civilizations being born and dying on distant planets, technologies beyond human comprehension, and a cosmic purpose that made my mind spin. "We are the Guardians," the voice finally translated. "We observe and guide the evolution of intelligent life throughout the galaxy. Your species has finally reached the stage where we can reveal ourselves." As I absorbed this shocking information, I noticed movement in my peripheral vision. Turning my head, I saw Peterson and Chen being brought into the room by something. I can't describe the creatures precisely. Their shapes seemed to shift and float, as if they were made of light and shadow at the same time. "Your companions are safe," the voice assured me, sensing my concern. "They will be key to what is to come." Peterson was the first to speak again. "Commander, where are we? What's going on?" Before I could answer, the room around us began to transform. The walls became transparent, revealing a view that stole our breath away. We were in the heart of the alien city, vast crystal and metal structures stretching out in all directions, and beyond them, the surface of the moon, with the Earth hovering majestically on the horizon. "Welcome to Nexus," the voice announced. "The nexus between worlds, the meeting point of galactic civilizations." Chen, ever the scientist, was the first to ask the obvious question. How has this been hidden for so long? Our telescopes, our probes. The answer came in the form of a demonstration. Before our eyes, the city began to disappear, as if swallowed up by the lunar surface itself. In a matter of seconds, all we saw was the familiar, desolate landscape of the satellite. "Cloaking technology," I muttered, more to myself than to the others. "Precisely," confirmed the voice. "We kept our presence hidden until humanity was ready." It was then that a terrible suspicion began to form in my mind. The envelope, the secret instructions, the Omega-7 protocol. "NASA knew about you," I accused, my voice betraying a mixture of anger and incredulity. The silence that followed was more revealing than any verbal response could have been. "Not NASA as a whole," the voice finally clarified. "Only a select group within the agency. They have been our intermediaries for decades, preparing the way for this moment." The revelation hit us like a ton of bricks. Years of missions, of training, all part of a bigger plan that we couldn't even imagine. "Why now?" Peterson asked, his voice a mixture of fascination and fear. "Why reveal all this to us?" The answer came not in words, but in a series of images projected onto the walls around us. We saw the Earth, beautiful and fragile, but surrounded by an aura of imminent danger. Asteroids on a collision course, solar flares of a magnitude never seen before, and something else, something hidden in the depths of space, slowly approaching. "Your species is in danger," the voice explained, laden with a gravity that made my blood run cold. "Threats that you haven't even begun to understand are approaching. We're here to help, but we need intermediaries. You have been chosen for that role." The magnitude of what we were hearing was overwhelming. We weren't just astronauts on a mission of exploration. We were the ones chosen to be the link between humanity and an advanced alien civilization. "What exactly do you want from us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Knowledge," replied the voice. "We will share with you secrets of the universe, technologies beyond your imagination. But in return, we need you to prepare humanity for what is to come." As we processed this information, the room began to change again. Symbols and complex equations appeared on the walls. Diagrams of machines that defied our comprehension. Star maps of regions of the universe we had never seen before. Chen approached one of the walls, his eyes wide with amazement. This is revolutionary. String theory, space folding, quantum manipulation on a macroscopic scale. "This is just the beginning," the voice assured. "But time is of the essence. The threats are approaching faster than you think." As I watched my companions absorbing the alien knowledge, a feeling of vertigo hit me. The weight of responsibility, the shock of revelation, all threatened to overwhelm me. "What if we refuse?" I asked, more out of reflex than real intent. The answer came in the form of a terrifying vision. The Earth, our home, reduced to ash and rubble, billions of lives lost in an instant. "That is the alternative," the voice said simply. At that moment, I realized that we had no real choice. The fate of humanity was in our hands, whether we wanted that responsibility or not. "What should we do?" I asked, resigned to our new role. "Learn," replied the voice. "Absorb. And when you're ready, return to Earth with the knowledge you need to save your species." The walls of the room began to pulsate with a strange energy, and I felt my consciousness expanding. Information began to flow directly into my mind, concepts and ideas I could never have imagined. I looked at Peterson and Chen, seeing in their faces the same mixture of terror and fascination that I felt. We were about to embark on a journey that would change not only our lives, but the fate of all humanity. As the alien knowledge flooded my mind, one last question echoed in my thoughts. Were we really prepared for what was to come? The answer, I feared, was no. But we had no choice but to try. Time lost all meaning as we were immersed in the vast ocean of alien knowledge. Hours, days, maybe weeks passed. It was impossible to tell. Every moment brought new revelations that challenged everything we thought we knew about the universe. I watched Peterson decipher equations that rewrote the laws of physics as we knew them. Chen was engrossed in diagrams of technologies that seemed like pure magic, manipulating gravity, bending space-time, even the possibility of traveling between dimensions. As for me, I was immersed in information about the threats approaching Earth. What I saw chilled me to the bone. "This can't be real," I muttered, more to myself than to the others. The voice of the Guardians, now a constant presence in my mind, replied, "Unfortunately, it is very real. What you see is only the beginning." The images before me showed a catastrophic convergence of events. A swarm of asteroids, much larger and denser than anything we had ever detected, was approaching on a collision course. At the same time, our star was about to enter a cycle of unprecedented solar activity, with eruptions capable of frying all of Earth's electronic systems. But the worst was yet to come. At the edge of our solar system, something was moving, something vast, ancient, and implacable. "What is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have a name for them," the voice replied. "We call them devourers. They consume entire worlds, leaving only emptiness in their wake." The horror of that revelation threatened to overwhelm me. How could we face such threats? How could I carry the weight of this knowledge? Why us? I exploded, frustration and fear finally boiling over. Why choose just our team for this impossible task? Peterson and Chen interrupted their studies, looking at me with a mixture of concern and understanding. The Guardian's answer came not in words, but in a series of images that flooded my mind. I saw our team being selected, trained, prepared over years without our knowledge. Every mission, every test, every challenge we faced had been carefully orchestrated to prepare us for this moment. You were chosen because you are exceptional, the voice explained, not just in intellect and ability, but in courage, empathy, and determination, qualities that will be essential for what is to come. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Chen, his eyes shining with a mixture of fear and resolve. "Commander," he said softly, "I know it seems impossible, but think of what we've already learned, what we can still learn. If there's any chance of saving our world, we have to try." Peterson nodded, joining us. "He's right. We can't give up now." His words calmed me down, reminding me why we had been chosen. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. "You're right," I admitted. "But how are we going to transmit all this to Earth? How can we expect them to believe us, to act in time?" The answer came in the form of a new transformation of the room around us. The walls opened up, revealing a vast hangar full of ships. No, they were something else. Machines that defied our comprehension, pulsing with energy and possibilities. "These are the messengers," explained the voice of the Guardians. "Vehicles capable of crossing space, time, and the very barriers of reality. With them, you can not only return to Earth, but prove the truth of your words." We approached the machines in amazement. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, emanating a power that made the air around them vibrate. "But before you can leave," the voice continued, "there is more you need to learn. The knowledge you carry is only the beginning. Now you must learn how to use it." What followed was intensive training like no other. We learned to operate technologies that seemed to violate every law of physics we knew. We manipulated gravity, bent space-time, even touched the edges of other dimensions. Each new ability we acquired brought with it a mixture of exaltation and terror. The power we now had at our disposal was intoxicating, but also frightening in its implications. "With great power comes great responsibility," I muttered to myself during a pause in our training. "Wise words," replied the voice of the Guardians, surprising me. "That's why you were chosen, not just for your ability to learn, but for your moral integrity." As I absorbed these words, a new concern arose in my mind. What about the others? Our entire crew was 7 people. Where are the other 4? The silence that followed was heavy, filled with a palpable sadness. Not all of them survived the process of adaptation, the voice finally replied. "Your companions gave their lives so that the 3 of you could be here now." The shock of this revelation was like a punch in the gut. I remembered the faces of our lost colleagues, their laughter, their dreams, their families waiting for them on Earth. "They didn't die in vain," Peterson said softly, tears shining in his eyes. "Let's honor their sacrifice by saving our world." I nodded, feeling a new determination growing inside me. We couldn't fail, not just for the Earth, but for those we had lost. "We're ready," I declared, my voice steady despite the swirl of emotions in my chest. "What do we do now?" The answer came in the form of one last transformation of the room. In front of us, a portal opened, revealing the familiar surface of the moon. "Now," said the voice of the Guardians, "you return, take the knowledge you have acquired, the skills you have developed. Prepare your world for what is to come." We exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and determination on our faces. With a silent nod, we took the first step towards the portal. As we crossed the threshold, back onto the lunar surface, one last message echoed in our minds. "Remember, you are not alone. We will be watching, guiding, ready to intervene if necessary. The fate of the Earth is now in your hands." With these words reverberating in our thoughts, we emerged onto the lunar surface. Our ship, seemingly untouched, was waiting for us. It was time to return home and face the biggest challenge of our lives. convincing humanity that the end was near and that we had the means to prevent it. As we prepared for the journey back, I couldn't help but wonder, was the Earth really ready for what we were about to reveal? The return to Earth was surreal. Our ship, now imbued with alien technology, cut through space in a matter of hours, a journey that would normally take days. As we approached our blue planet, a mixture of emotions washed over me: relief at being back, anxiety about what awaited us, and a deep sense of responsibility that weighed on my shoulders like lead. "Prepare for re-entry," I announced, my voice firmer than I felt inside. Peterson and Chen nodded silently, their tense faces reflecting the gravity of our situation. We were no longer just astronauts returning from a mission. We were carriers of knowledge that could save or destroy humanity. The descent was smooth, almost anticlimactic compared to the whirlwind in our minds. We landed in the New Mexico desert, where a NASA recovery team was already waiting for us. Through the hatch, I could see the expression of shock on their faces. Clearly, they hadn't expected us back so soon, or perhaps they hadn't expected us back at all. As soon as the doors opened, we were inundated with a cacophony of voices and camera flashes. Doctors, scientists, and NASA officials crowded around us, bombarding us with questions we could barely process. "Quiet!" I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos. "We have critical information. We need to speak to Director Holloway immediately." The hubbub died down, replaced by confused looks and whispers. A man in a suit approached, his face a mask of calculated concern. "Commander," he said, "I'm Deputy Director Lawson. Director Holloway is unavailable at the moment. Please come with me. We need to do a full assessment before any debriefing." I exchanged glances with Peterson and Chen. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "With all due respect, sir," I replied, keeping my voice steady, "what we have to report cannot wait. Earth is in imminent danger and—" "Commander," Lawson interrupted me, his voice now full of authority, "you have just returned from an extensive space mission. You are disoriented and possibly suffering from post-traumatic stress. Please follow protocol." I felt the anger growing inside me. How could they not see the urgency of the situation? I was about to protest when I felt Chen's hand on my shoulder. "Maybe we should cooperate for now," he whispered. "Gain your trust before revealing everything." Reluctantly, I nodded. We were escorted to a nearby facility where we went through the long and frustrating hours of medical and psychological examinations. All the while, I tried to emphasize the importance of what we had to say, but was continually silenced with promises of soon and after the protocols. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, we were taken to a conference room. Lawson was there, along with a team of scientists and high-ranking officers. "Well done, Commander," Lawson said, his condescending tone irritating me deeply. "You have our attention. What's so urgent?" I took a deep breath, exchanging glances with my companions. It was now or never. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "what we are about to reveal will change everything we think we know about our place in the universe." Over the next 2 hours, I described in detail our meeting with the Guardians, the alien city on the moon, the imminent threats to Earth, and the knowledge we had been entrusted with. Peterson and Chen supplemented this with technical and scientific details that would make any quantum physicist question their sanity. When we finished, the room was absolutely silent. I could see the shock, disbelief, and, on some faces, fear in the eyes of our audience. Lawson was the first to recover. "Commander," he said slowly, "do you understand what you're suggesting? That not only have we made contact with intelligent extraterrestrial life, but that this life has been hiding on our own satellite for... how long exactly?" "Millennia, from what we understand," I replied, sensing the skepticism in his voice. "And you expect us to believe this based on your testimony alone?" one of the scientists asked, his voice laced with disdain. "Not just our testimony," Chen interjected. "We brought proof." With that, he activated a small device that the Guardians had given us. Instantly, the room was filled with three-dimensional holograms showing complex equations, diagrams of advanced technologies, and images of the approaching threats. The silence that followed was deafening. "My God," someone muttered. "That's impossible," another scientist declared, although his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Lawson stood up abruptly. "This meeting is adjourned," he announced. "Everything that has been said and shown here is classified at the highest level of national security. No one leaves this room until we have decided how to proceed." As armed guards entered the room, I realized that our struggle had only just begun. Convincing a few scientists and bureaucrats was one thing. Convincing the whole world and mobilizing it to action was quite another. "What about Director Holloway?" I asked, suddenly remembering the envelope and the secret instructions. Lawson's expression darkened. "Director Holloway is indisposed at the moment. That's all I can say." In that instant, I realized that there was more at stake than just convincing people about the alien threat. There was a conspiracy afoot, and we were at the center of it. As we were escorted out of the room, I exchanged meaningful glances with Peterson and Chen. We knew we couldn't trust anyone but ourselves. The truth had to come out, no matter what the cost. The fate of humanity depended on it. The days that followed were a blur of endless interrogations, exhaustive tests, and almost constant confinement. We were guests of NASA, but the term prisoners would be more accurate. Every attempt to communicate with the outside world was blocked. Every request for information was met with evasions. One night, as I stared at the ceiling of my cell room, the Guardian's voice echoed in my mind, as clear as if I were on the moon. "Time is running out. You must act." I sat up abruptly, my heart racing. I looked at the cameras in the corners of the room, wondering if they had picked up any changes in my behavior. It didn't matter. It was time to take drastic action. The next morning, during our brief period of supervised exercise, I managed to exchange meaningful glances with Peterson and Chen. They understood immediately. It was time to use the knowledge entrusted to us. That night, I concentrated intensely, accessing the skills the Guardians had taught us. With a mental effort that left me exhausted, I managed to deactivate our ward's security systems. The doors opened silently. We found ourselves in the corridor, moving like shadows. Chen had used his new abilities to create a distortion of perception around us, making us practically invisible to the cameras and guards. "Where are we going?" whispered Peterson. "To the communication center," I replied. "We're going to broadcast the truth to the world." We navigated the corridors of the facility like ghosts, our steps guided by an almost supernatural knowledge of the building's structure. When we reached the communication center, Chen quickly took control of the systems. "We have about 5 minutes before they notice the intrusion," he said, his fingers flying over the keyboards. "That's enough," I replied, positioning myself in front of a camera. "Broadcast to all networks, all channels." The red light came on, indicating that we were on air. I took a deep breath and began. "Citizens of the world, my name is your name, commander of the Artemis Earth mission. What I am about to reveal will forever change our understanding of the universe and our place in it." Over the next few minutes, I quickly explained our discovery on the moon, the imminent threats to Earth, and the conspiracy to keep it all secret. Peterson and Chen provided visual evidence, projecting holograms of the alien technologies and the looming dangers. As soon as we finished the transmission, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. "We have to get out of here," shouted Peterson. We ran through the corridors, now full of armed guards and panicked staff. Using our new skills, we managed to make our way to the hangar where our modified ship was stored. As we approached the ship, a familiar figure blocked our path. It was Deputy Director Lawson, a gun in his trembling hands. "You don't understand what you've done," he shouted, his voice laden with fear and anger. "There are things at stake here that are beyond your comprehension." "No, Lawson," I replied, my voice firm. "It's you who doesn't understand. Humanity deserves to know the truth. It deserves a chance to prepare." "Prepare?" He laughed bitterly. "Do you think revealing this to the world will prepare us? It will cause global panic, chaos. That's exactly what they want." "They?" asked Chen, his voice full of suspicion. "Who's they?" "Lawson." Lawson's face paled, realizing that he had said too much. In that moment of hesitation, Peterson acted. With one swift movement, he disarmed Lawson, leaving him lying on the ground. "Let's go," I said, running to the ship. "We don't have much time." As we took off, I looked out of the window at the chaos spreading across the base. Part of me wondered if we had done the right thing, but there was no turning back now. In the days that followed, the world went into overdrive. Our broadcast had been seen by billions. Governments went into crisis. Religions were questioned. The very foundation of human society shook. But in the midst of the chaos, something extraordinary began to happen. People from all corners of the globe, from all nations and beliefs, began to unite. The common threat, the revelation that we were not alone in the universe, was uniting humanity in an unprecedented way. Scientists from all over the world began to work together, analyzing the data we had provided. World leaders, initially skeptical, were forced to acknowledge the truth in the face of irrefutable evidence. But it wasn't all good news. Reports of strange sightings began to emerge. Unexplained lights in the sky, gravitational anomalies, even reports of people mysteriously disappearing. And then, one starry night, it happened. The sky lit up with an intense red glow. Meteors, larger than anything ever recorded, began to streak the atmosphere. The asteroid swarm that the Guardians had predicted had arrived. As the world watched in horror and fascination, I knew that our real battle had only just begun. The knowledge we carried was Earth's only hope. But would it be enough? With Peterson and Chen by my side, I piloted our ship towards the first asteroid. It was time to put everything we had learned into practice. The fate of humanity was in our hands, and we couldn't fail. The sky was blazing red, an omen of the chaos to come. Our ship, powered by technology beyond human comprehension, was cutting through the atmosphere towards the first asteroid. Sweat trickled down my face as I maneuvered the controls with a dexterity that wasn't entirely my own. "We're approaching the target," Chen announced, his eyes fixed on the advanced sensors. "It's bigger than anything we've ever faced in the simulators." Peterson, working furiously at a console off to the side, added, "The calculations are ready. If they work, we should be able to alter the asteroid's trajectory." I nodded, swallowing. "It's now or never." I activated the alien propulsion system, feeling the ship vibrate with an energy that made my teeth ache. A beam of bright blue light shot out from the front of the ship, hitting the asteroid squarely. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, imperceptibly at first, the rocky monster began to change course. "It's working!" shouted Peterson, his voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. But our victory was short-lived. As soon as the first asteroid was deflected, dozens more appeared on our sensors. "We can't deal with them all on our own," said Chen, despair evident in his voice. It was then that something extraordinary happened. Our communicators came alive with messages from all over the world. Scientists who had deciphered part of our previous transmission were replicating our technology. Ships from all nations, hastily equipped with rudimentary versions of our systems, were joining the fight. The next few hours were a blur of frantic action. We worked together with teams from all over the planet, guiding them, coordinating attacks, deflecting asteroids one after the other. It was a cosmic dance of destruction and salvation, with the very existence of humanity at stake. When the last asteroid was deflected, a stunned silence fell over our communications. We had succeeded. The first threat had been defeated, but we had no time to celebrate. As we returned to Earth's atmosphere, exhausted but triumphant, a new alert sounded in our systems. "Oh no," murmured Chen, his face pale in the light of the screens. "It's the solar flare. It's starting." I looked out of the ship's window, seeing the horizon begin to glow with an unnatural light. The biggest solar storm ever recorded was about to hit the Earth, threatening to fry every electronic system on the planet. "Transmit the instructions to the electromagnetic shields," I ordered, my voice hoarse with exhaustion. "We have to protect critical infrastructure." Once again, humanity mobilized. Using the knowledge we had shared, nations around the world erected energy barriers to protect their power grids and communication systems. It was close, but we managed to minimize the storm's impact. When we finally landed, we were greeted not as fugitives or madmen, but as heroes. World leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens gathered to thank us and listen to what we had to say. But I knew that our fight was far from over. The words of the Guardians echoed in my mind. The Devourers are coming. In the midst of the celebrations, I gathered my team and the world's most influential leaders. What we've faced so far is only the beginning, I explained, my voice grave. The real threat is yet to come. We need to prepare. In the months that followed, the Earth underwent an unprecedented transformation. The alien knowledge we had brought catalyzed technological advances that would have taken centuries to achieve otherwise. Humanity came together like never before, working together to fortify our planet and expand our presence in the solar system. And then, almost a year after our return from the moon, they arrived. The Devourers, huge dark ships that eclipsed the sun, advancing inexorably towards Earth. Standing on the command deck of humanity's first true spaceship, I felt a mix of terror and determination. We had prepared as best we could, but would it be enough? "They're sending a message," Chen announced, his voice trembling slightly. An alien voice, cold and implacable, echoed through the ship. "Your world is doomed. Surrender and you will be spared." I exchanged glances with Peterson and Chen. We had faced the impossible before and survived. This would be our greatest test. "Transmit our response," I ordered, my voice firm despite the fear that threatened to consume me. "Tell them, Earth will not surrender. We are ready to fight." As our fleet advanced to confront the Devourers, I couldn't help but wonder if the Guardians would come to our aid, but deep down, I knew that this was our fight. Humanity was finally united, facing a common threat with all the strength of our collective determination and the knowledge we had acquired. The fate of the Earth was in our hands, and no matter the outcome, I knew we had done everything we could to save our world. As the first salvos of energy crossed the void of space between our forces and the Devourers, I closed my eyes for a moment, thinking about everything we had been through to get to this point. When I opened them again, I was ready for whatever the future would bring. The battle for Earth had begun. The battle for Earth.